course, get in Avinash Gorakhshekar for that very quick perspective. He was with us during the Reliance results, but we'll love to hear his view again because we would have had time to digest all of that. But Avinash, just a one quick broad brush. Today we'll start off lower. Would you be in a buying mode then, or would you believe that this could be the start of yet another down leg?
I think, Neeraj, my sense is markets definitely could open weak, and I would believe that I would prefer to wait and watch. I think it's definitely a market which is going to see increased volatility. May is typically a month where most people say sell and go away. Our sense is that you could see a lot of pressure on some of the larger corporates, especially from the infrastructure and typically the domestic focus sector. So I think after having a look at Reliance numbers and typically lever numbers, I think the macro environment for companies, at least for the next couple of quarters, is going to be extremely tough. It would definitely be a buying on decline opportunity for us, but we would be very selective, and clearly, I mean, it would be not be anything in a hurry. So we'll wait and watch. But overall, I think the market triggers clearly point out that there could be a little more selling before the market actually stabilizes going forward. So it's better to wait and watch rather than jumping the gun and immediately buying in the markets as of today.
Avinash, let's start off with HUL. We know that the stock was under pressure. The numbers, the volume growth number -7%. What does this mean for HUL valuations? Because we know the stock will start off lower today. For somebody who has HUL in the portfolio, tactically, is it a good idea to get out of it because you might get it at lower levels?
My guess is, Neeraj, I think this kind of performance was, quite well accepted, anticipated by the markets. But I think the volume growth, negative growth of 7% was definitely a disappointing trend. From the management commentary, it was very clear that the company is making conscious efforts to resume production as fast as possible. But, to get some more clarity and some positivity in the numbers, it could happen that it may take about 3 to 4 months. So our sense is that, yes, the results are definitely disappointing and you could see a little decline of the stock price. But I would not be surprised that at lower levels, there could be good buying interest. Lever has a very strong balance sheet, a very strong market share in all its product categories. So I would not be surprised that, one should definitely not look at the stock in selling it immediately. Some declines would definitely be a kind of an entry point for long-term investors. Our sense is that Lever is one of those companies which has got the propensity to bounce back very sharply once normalcy resumes. So I think apart from a short-term knee-jerk kind of reaction to the stock today, I would not be surprised that the stock would actually recover maybe in the second half today. So it would be a buy on decline rather than a sell on rise.
Okay. What about Tech Mahindra, Avinash?
I think Tech Mahindra, Neeraj, numbers have been quite disappointing. I think much disappointing than the other two frontline, companies like, TCS and Infosys, which reported numbers. And I think I would not be too keen to put my money here immediately. The verticals, especially the telecom vertical, is something which we would be watching very closely. And our sense is that if at all, this, drawdown in the order wins as well as the execution gets hampered, then I think it's going to be a little difficult for them. Their earlier deals also markets would be clearly watching as to how they integrate with the entire company. And I think these are factors which would definitely lag on the stock. I would prefer to wait for a better entry point. Longer term, the prospects seem good, but in the near term, at least for the next 3 to 6 months, the headwinds continue to be challenging.
Okay, now, Reliance has multiple pieces of news around it. There is results which were weak. There is a rights issue that has been announced, which the pricing of which was slightly higher than anticipated. Keep in mind, it's the first time in 30 years that the company's announced the rights issue as well. The inventory losses took the numbers lower, but there is that Facebook deal traction that is there behind. And now the key is, I think there is an announcement that is coming wherein Silver Lake is going to invest about 5,655 crores in Geo platforms at an equity value of 4.9 lakh crores. The deal represents about 12.5% premium to the equity valuation of the Facebook investment. So money seems to be flowing in for Reliance Industries, and the announcements are coming in at the right time for the stock as well. So the going is good right now. The market is going to start off well. What will win the tug of war? Avinash Gorakhshekar, what would you do this morning with a Reliance Industries? if you will do anything?
No, in fact, Neeraj, I remember telling you that we would be biased on declines, but I think looking at the kind of news flow which has come in today morning on Reliance, especially on the Geo business, with another investor coming in and that too, picking up a stake in the Geo business at a 12% premium to their Facebook deal, I think clearly the stock should be heading upwards. Our sense is that these kind of positive news flow surprises would obviously keep the market sentiment quite positive for the stock ahead of the rights issue, and I think the stock should go ex right by end of the month. Our sense is that this is a business which is now going to actually take care of the debt repayments. I think the markets would be definitely be happy that a large amount of debt would now be reduced significantly from the Facebook cash deal as well as this deal which has happened now. So I think net, I think I would be a buyer, but yes, I would prefer to wait for a slight correction, despite the fact that the near-term headwinds actually prove the fact that the stock could open higher. I would wait for a slight correction and then enter at these levels. Probably, the longer-term implications of the Geo business, as well as the other petrochemicals and the refining business would definitely help the company in FY22. FY21, our senses will still continue to be a challenging year. Despite the fact that, obviously second half could see a little bit of normalcy. So net, longer term positive news, but yes, today the stock could jump purely because of this news.
Okay. So Avinash, my question is, it will likely start off lower today, maybe, or could start off lower today. Would you buy it only at those lower levels, or would you be comfortable buying it even at higher levels?
Yeah, I think Neeraj, if the market gives an opportunity for the stock to open lower, assuming it opens around say something probably 2-3% lower, I would believe that one could start nimbling slowly, considering the fact that this news flow is definitely going to have an EPS accretive impact on the balance sheet for FY21. So definitely, I would not be in a hurry, but I would slowly start nimbling and buying small quantities gradually into the Reliance counter.
Okay, so that's the view when it comes to Reliance Industries. Viewers, keep in mind the going is looking very, very good, but there is the market risk to Reliance Industries. Keep in mind the larger market issues stay, but Avinash's point is well taken that they are striking all the right notes, and if there the money is coming in, the debt levels are going down and all of that, and it could actually work well for Reliance Industries. So do watch out for that one as well. Now, in moments from now, we'll get in Nikki Mirchandani, my colleague, to talk about all the other key newsmakers and stocks in news as well. Avinash, the one update that I wanted, and I haven't gotten any confirmations about it, there's this talk of how the hospital stocks could be in focus today because the Maharashtra government has done some price caps for select treatments in private hospitals and charitable hospitals. Have you heard anything to this effect, and is that a big negative?
My guess is, I think, Neeraj, this would definitely have an impact on the pricing of these hospitals. And as it is, COVID-19 had a disastrous impact on the patient inflow and the revenues of these hospitals. Considering the fact that it's a very capital-intensive business and where the fixed cost element is pretty high, I would not be surprised that you could see a strong wave of selling in most of the hospital stocks, especially companies like Fortis, Apollo Hospitals, which businesses are listed. And I think it would be better to, stay away from these businesses for some more time, considering the fact that whenever such government controls are imposed on these businesses, the markets definitely avoid such companies for the time being, considering that a certain amount of, regulation and controls brings down the pricing power of these players. So I think it's definitely a negative news flow, and I think the markets would obviously wait for the commentaries from each of the company's management as to how it impacts their bottom lines and margins going forward.
Okay, so that's the word on Reliance Industries. Do we have Nikki Mirchandani? Because I think we should try and get some of the other newsmakers as well. I mean, this is one. There are some results. There is Laurus Labs, which came out with numbers, and I think the brokerage notes on that one have been very, very robust. So do watch out for that as well. We should also try and get in our technical experts on board to try and think more what to do out here as well. I mean, that's just one quick perspective. We've spoken about the results. We've spoken about the newsmakers. Just a broad brush view on whether today, if the financials start off lower, would you go out and sell any of those financial names which have had a very good rally?
I think clearly, Neeraj, I would continue to be slightly negative on the housing finance sector. Our sense is that housing finance sector and the loan against property sector stocks would definitely find a lot of pressure today, especially as far as India Bulls housing is concerned. Our sense is that this is one company which has got a very large exposure to home finance as well as loan against property. So I think you could see definitely some selling coming in the financials, but I think the standalone NBFCs which do purely the HFC business and the loan against property business stand more vulnerable compared to more diversified, players like Bajaj Finance. Bajaj Finance has also risen, so possibly one could see a slight selling wave there also. But definitely Bajaj Finance is relatively better positioned as compared to the other standalone entities.
I wonder, Avinash, we spoke about the others, but any thoughts on Radico Khaitan? That is looking like starting off well.
No, I think Neeraj, even Radico Khaitan seems to be well positioned. In fact, looking at their December quarter numbers, I think one thing is very clear that the management has made a conscious effort to reduce leverage on the balance sheet significantly, and I think they have a very strong branded IMFL portfolio. So our sense is that maybe the company could see a little bit of hiccup on the volume growth for the next 1 or 2 quarters, but the company seems to be well positioned for growth going ahead. The coronavirus outbreak as well as the closure of liquor shops impacted their business also significantly. So I would believe that yes, this is one stock which obviously after United Breweries has got a decent kind of risk reward even at the current odd levels. And investors who want to take a long-term kind of position should definitely buy this stock, even at current levels. Our sense is over the next 12 to 15 months, it could definitely outperform and give a decent risk reward.
Okay, to quickly move on to the top calls and one key name, autos we haven't quite discussed. Avinash Gorakhshekhar, you want to come in on the auto stocks? Zero sales, not quite unexpected, but what next?
My guess is, Neeraj, I think within the auto stocks, stocks like Mahindra and Maruti, which reported zero sales in the month of April, was more or less on expected lines. But I think one could definitely see a little bit of positivity here, considering the fact that very soon the government is going to announce a large financial package, especially for the auto and the auto component sector. And I would not be surprised that once this is announced, you could see a kind of a gradual resumption of positivity in these two companies. I would be also be happy, if some effort is also put on the MSME segments, which actually go a long way in being suppliers to some of the larger auto companies. So I would believe that yes, one should use the weakness in these auto stocks to actually accumulate these stocks from a longer term perspective. I think most of the negatives have been factored into the prices, and I don't think any significant downside from these levels looks possible.
Okay, so any significant downside from these levels does not look possible to Avinash Gorakhshekhar. Keep that in mind.